Behind me is a house that I bought out of pre-foreclosure and made $70,000 profit on. But this isn't a video about making profit. This is a video about following up. So rule number one when marketing to niche lists is to not underestimate how many touches it's going to take to get a hold of a homeowner. In this particular case, in the house we just visited, we actually contacted this homeowner 117 times, which seems a little bit shocking. You might think, isn't that a little bit much? But most people think that follow-ups are only going to be texts or cold calls. But there's actually a lot of different ways that you can follow up with someone. So in our company, we follow up in 7 different ways. Text, email, video message, which not a lot of you do, direct mail, cold call, Facebook message, and door knock. So I'm going to break down each one of these, and I actually went back in my CRM and my phone, and I figured out how many times I actually followed up. I want to break all that down for you, and then at the end, show you how much I made per follow-up and how much I made per hour on the deal. That way, when you're getting a little bit bummed, when you're getting told no over and over and over in your marketing, that you just got to do one more follow-up, one more reach out, and that could be the one that ends up getting you the deal. So let's go ahead and start breaking this down. I went back in my CRM, I looked at my texts, and I actually sent 42 text messages to this seller. Now keep in mind, this is over a 12-week period, so it's not like I'm barraging them like crazy. It might be a text or 2 a day. You're not trying to overwhelm people, you're really trying to give them value in every interaction that you have. So that was the text messages, and the emails, I followed up 12 times. I actually have a drip set up in my CRM, so I'm not having to manually send out all those emails. I pre-formatted all of them, and then as soon as that lead hits my CRM, it knows, hey, I'm going to send one this week and perhaps one next week, and then hopefully over time that seller will reach out. Okay, our next reach out method is a video message, and on that one I actually reached out a total of 7 times. There's tons of investors reaching out to these folks, but everyone's sending a text or leaving a voicemail. They're very informal and impersonal. What if you left a quick 20 to 30 second, really personal video where you address them by name, kind of say a little blurb about their situation, and really come across as genuine and someone that really wants to help? It's really going to stand out with the seller. So that's something that you could implement in your marketing as soon as possible with all of your leads, not just people that are in pre-foreclosure. Okay, so let's move up here to direct mail. This is another thing that I have automated in my office. I have a lady that does them for me, and I have a different service that sends out my direct mail. So we had that on a drip of about once a week on average. So again, this was a 12-week process. We hit them up with about 12 different pieces of direct mail. Each of these pieces of mail has a little bit different message, and as we get closer to that foreclosure date, we're getting a little bit more intense with trying to talk to them. The next one is cold call. I actually called this lady a grand total of 27 times. And what's funny is I went back and looked in the CRM, and the first time I called, I got a hold of her, but she immediately hung up the phone, she was upset, and then she blocked me. So I could have given up after that first contact, but I actually got a few different phone numbers in my CRM, and I was able to keep following up. But we followed up 27 times here. Now, one of our bread and butter ways to get a hold of someone is through door knocking. And I door knocked this lady a total of 6 times. This house is about 10 minutes from my office, so it wasn't too bad of a drive. But the first time I went there, I realized, hey, this house is vacant. Okay? That enabled me to realize, hey, I might have to go look for her somewhere else. So I looked in the county tax records and I found a utility record to where she was actually in a rental on the other side of the city, and I actually went and door knocked that one as well. So don't think you're confined to just the house that you're trying to door knock. You might have to look if it's vacant to see where else that seller might be. And the last way that we try to reach people is Facebook messages, and don't think it's just confined to Facebook. You could be reaching out to people on LinkedIn or any type of channel that they might have their social media presence. So I reached out to her 11 times. And what's crazy is after the 116th contact, I almost gave up. I was like, I really want this house. It's in the town that I live in. I really want this deal, but I just can't get a hold of the seller. So I remember sitting in my desk, and I was just really kind of frustrated. What is it that I have to do to get a hold of the seller? She just clearly doesn't want help. And then something just popped in my head. Hey, look at her Facebook profile one more time and give it one more shot. So I went to her Facebook profile, I looked through it carefully, and I noticed a few pictures of her with another gentleman. His name was Brian. I went to his profile and it confirmed that he was her boyfriend, so I reached out and I sent him a Facebook message and said, look, your girlfriend has a foreclosure sale in 2 days. She has a ton of equity. I just can't get a hold of her. Is there anything you can do to help me out? So 2 minutes later, the lady, she doesn't even call me. She doesn't even send a text like, hey, can you help? She actually sent me a picture of her mortgage statement and said, can we meet at the house? So this game takes persistence. I had reached out 116 times with no success, but it took that 117th time, taking one extra step to end up setting that appointment. After I got her text message, we got on a brief call. She kind of explained the situation, that she had had a child pass away the year before, and it was truly heartbreaking, and she just could not stay in the house anymore, and she moved in with her boyfriend. That's why the house was vacant and why she didn't want to address the situation. So we got on the call, we ended up setting an appointment for later that evening, and I was able to meet with them. So that evening we had the appointment. They did not want to go in the house at all. They were so embarrassed of the situation because there was actually a pipe burst and there was mold all over the house. So they actually stayed out in the driveway. I went in the house, took a look at it, got all my pictures, went back out. They didn't want to be here at all because of everything that had happened. They wanted to go to a local McDonald's and discuss all the details. The seller sat down with me at this McDonald's. She pulled out her mortgage statement. She said, Michael, I owe $67,000 on the house. I know it's in terrible condition. I highly doubt that you'd even pay the $67,000 to pay it off, but it would be life-changing if you could give us $80,000. That would give us enough to catch up some bills. I said, you know, I really can't do 80, and her shoulders kind of slumped. But I said, 80's too low. What I can do is give you 100. As an investor, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to make money. But at the end of the day, I am here to serve people. And did I make a lot of money on the deal? I did. But I wanted to give her a little bit extra because that extra 20 grand was going to be massive for her. She didn't have any money in her bank account. Instead of giving her 13,000 bucks, she ended up making about 33 and was just completely stunned and started crying and gave me a big hug. And that's what I'm here for, is of course to make profit, but I put people over the profit. She's not going to remember all the text messages and Facebook messages and cold calls. She's going to remember how I made her feel by following up. So that's why it's so important to stay persistent and keep following up no matter how many times it takes. So like I said at the beginning of the video, it's going to take a lot of touches to get contracts in this. Don't be afraid of over-contacting. Like I said, it took me 117 touches in this situation. Does it always take that much? No, it doesn't. But this is just a great example of what type of persistence it takes to get a deal. So I want to reframe your mind a little bit on how to think about each particular reach out. So I made $70,000 on this deal. So a great profit. But think about how much I made for each reach out. So if you take that 70,000 divided by 117, take out your calculator real quick. Let's see what that ends up being. It means that every single reach out that I sent to the seller, I made $598. So instead of imagining that each time they don't respond, that's a no, imagine how much money you're making each time if you get that deal. That can just completely reframe and help you keep going when it does get difficult. But let's take it an extra step further. Let's figure out how much I made per hour on this property. So I'm going to make this number up a little bit, but let's assume that each reach out took me 3 minutes. So if you imagine a text or a piece of direct mail or a door knock, each interaction really doesn't take very long. So let's figure out how much time that is. So 117 reach outs multiplied by 3 minutes, that's 351 minutes. We'll divide that by 60, that's 5.85 hours. So if we know that $70,000 was our profit and it took 5.85 hours to get the deal, it ends up being about $11,900. $965 an hour. And I think you would agree with me that that's probably worth your time, just like it's worth mine. So hopefully this video has kind of demonstrated to you how important it is to follow up and how important it is to keep after it, because not only are you after this to try to get a profit, but this lady at the very end, she said, "Thank you so much for keeping after me. I got all of your messages. I saw every single one. You were the only person that kept after me, and I just want to thank you for keeping after it and thinking about me as a person." That's the part of investing that I like just as much as the money, is that emotional income of really helping someone and setting them up for a situation that is much better moving forward. So while you're going through this process and you think that you're really pestering someone, don't think like that. They're seeing your messages, they're feeling your empathy, and when the time is right, they will reach out and you will end up getting the deal because you were the person that followed up. So if this has been helpful and you got a little bit of value, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.